Okay, hello all. Thank you for joining this Saturday evening for the third edition of the Product Talk series. So today's topic is AI in product management, and it's I mean in the current world of AI, with so much latest developments in AI and Gen AI, I think this is the topic we would want to hear on, and to share the insights on this excellent topic we have Meghna as a speaker for today. Meghna is a seasoned enterprise agile coach with expertise in agile transformation of large to complex IT and ITS organizations. She is in SPC6 and a seasoned IT professional with rich experience in multiple onshore, offshore, diverse global teams and roles in PMO. She has successfully delivered projects, programs with variable team sizes, with agile scrums, scrum sub scrums, and safe methodologies ranging from 1 to 20 teams, scrum teams, augmented with a blend of TDD and continuous integration techniques. She has also trained close to 1,000 participants in various scaled agile framework workshops. So it's my pleasure to welcome Meghna for this series and for this talk. Meghna, over to you, please.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction and very happy to be here. And let's start with a disclaimer. Okay, so this is not going to be a session which is only about AI. Rather, we are going to blend it with product management. And I'll tell you in the session as we progress through it why this disclaimer. So let's begin. What are we going to talk about? My experiences, whatever I have learned, gathered, experienced around how artificial intelligence, which is getting plugged into everything today. What changes when we talk about product management? What is it that we need to consider? I will talk about a few tools, but as we know, this is the space where tools are evolving a lot more. So, this is not a talk about tools. That's the second disclaimer. And of course, there will be recommendations, but beyond that, I would like to share with the audience what are the important considerations when they look at blending AI and product management in any which ways. So that will be the theme, that will be the focus. And I will be happy to share what I have learned, experienced, or coached in different organizations. So, with that being said, let's begin. And let's look at how things are coming together. Now, everyone's talking about AI, but really, what is it all about? So, I'm going to try and simplify things a little bit for everyone because simplification will help us remember better. That's what I always feel. And so, what we are essentially talking about in the world of product management, or for that matter, generally, what are we talking about when it comes to AI? We're talking about data and we are talking about what we can learn from the data. And when we learn something, we want to use it in future. Okay, so that's in a nutshell what it means. So there is definitely data as the starting point, data which is gathered through the usage of different products or through studying the intended user behaviors, lots and lots of data of all kinds, which is the input for training the models. Okay, so a model at the moment, look at it like an algorithm, a sophisticated algorithm running in the background. So you have data and you have the algorithms that use this data. And what do they use data for? The algorithms use data, the models use data for understanding, for learning, and also improving the accuracy of everything that we do. So, not that product management is new, neither AI is new, by the way, but both of them coming together is new. And we will also touch upon why that is so. Why all the more focus in recent times, though product management has existed for a lot of years, and AI also has existed in different ways for quite some time now. So, getting back, it's all about starting with having data to fuel the models, to help the models learn. And then it's all about how the algorithms actually make it a point to have an understanding. So you will hear lots and lots of terms. Again, as I mentioned, it's not a talk about AI, but it's about AI in product management. So there are tons of things: machine learning, large language models, augmented generation, and you will hear many more. And then these two come together, and what do they give us? They give us a simulation of human intelligence in a machine. So we are trying to see if machines can get anywhere closer to how we can think and act. That's the whole model of the story. Now, this has already come together, the data and the learning, and we see lots and lots of things. Okay, so most of us know about Siri, right? And then we get recommendations and other things even when we don't want. That's another story, that we are in a conversation and then you hear Siri in the background when you least expect. But nevertheless, on a positive note, on a serious side, yes, these have been really helpful, and this is something we've known about as a companion, as a utility, as a tool, as a software which works together, which even works when you are not. So it keeps capturing your patterns, your data, be it the health related aspects, be it your pulse rate, to n number of things, to what you watch probably on your OTTs and the likes, and just keeps gathering more and more information about you to give you personalized recommendations. We have known about n number of bots and assistants in all form, right? We have known about recommendations. We have known about when we want to shop something, we get a recommendation. When we approach the customer support, it first gets into uh, a mode of automated responses, trying to understand what our problem is, and then ultimately direct us accordingly. It could be in the form of help, or we eventually talk to a human representative of the sorts. So you have AI almost pretty much everywhere, right from Prime Video to Netflix to everything in between, remembers what you have watched, gives you personalized recommendations in one form. That is also AI running in the background, that is also algorithms. And of course, AI can trigger a lot of things around, right from sending customized emails, recommendations, and the likes. So, this is an era of data, and this is an era of personalization. Okay, no longer do I, as an intended user of any of these, would like to receive an exodus of information. I don't want that. I want something which is specific to me. And the machine keeps learning it in the background, basis what I have done, what I have shopped, what I have viewed on YouTube or Prime Video and the likes. So all these are in variable degrees AI at its best. So some interesting facts. Okay, so as we are pretty convinced that it's already all around us. And by the way, it's not new. Okay, these things, this understanding has been, and the usage of it has been around for many decades, if not more. Chatbots also, by the way, are not new. And the capabilities are increasing day by day by day. The creative aspect of it, which is not what typically at times the initial stages of AI targeted, but now it's getting into a creative zone. Okay, you can generate images based on prompts that you provide to your chat GPT or copilot and the likes. Okay, and it's going to generate images. Sometimes it generates something really interesting for you, sometimes it generates something entirely different from what you wanted. But we'll come to that part where human in the loop continues to be much more important than in past. And of course, we all know about a lot of predictive analytics in the healthcare and in various other sectors. So what's interesting is to understand that this is a world of opportunities. And though we always keep hearing that there will be some jobs which will not exist anymore in future, but that is always something that has happened from ages. the transition, the kind of job expectations have changed, and we will also look at how AI will change product management. So, AI is likely to create many more jobs, convert some of the jobs into different kind of expectations, responsibilities will change. And above all, this is a place where you have a lot of opportunities. The projection just for 2025 in the AI software market is being anticipated at US dollar, of course, 100 billion. That's a lot of money. And believe me, when I read this data, it took me a while to get the math. How much money are we talking about? And so it's humongous in terms of opportunities. So those are some of the things I really want you to uh, keep remembering, that yes, if used rightly and in the right context, we have a world of opportunities. So, how is AI making an impact as of today? There are some 2 to 3 broad areas where you will see a lot happening in the space of product management. And what are those three? What I have seen from my experience so far, a lot of data is coming into the system. We have tools, we have algorithms which continuously capture a lot of data. And this fuels a lot of research from which we are going to get much better insights than what we could ever have in the past. And hence, the focus is also increasing on AI in product management, because we now have the capacity to record so much more data. We have the capacity to process much more data than what we had in past. So always remember that AI is not going to exist in isolation, for that matter, in product management or anywhere. It is going to exist together with data. It's going to exist together with the computing power and a whole lot of other things. So it's important to understand when we have the right time to blend these two together as well. Then comes real-time data analytics, or real-time analytics as a whole. That could be anything from user behaviors, from what are the trends, opportunity windows, how is product performing, and so on. So this makes decision making much more quicker than in past. Okay, why? Because we have data, we have algorithms, we have computing power. All three need to come together. And of course, last but not the least, there's huge amount of automation that we see much more than in past. So these are the three broad level areas where I have seen a huge impact being made ever since we started to get the best of both worlds, which is AI and product management coming together. So what exactly happens on the ground? You have artificial intelligence, which gives you a lot of opportunity to automate. There are data driven insights. There are customer behaviors, data about the buying patterns. There is also prediction. And product management pitches itself in terms of customer centricity, knowing who the customer is, when is it that it is the right time to launch, to what extent, the marketing aspects, the business value of the product and the product success, and of course, giving user experience which is very specific and very customized. So when these two are going to come together, and to the extent they're going to come together, we will more and more get a world which is very, very focused, which is very customer centric, which helps prioritization based on the realities, based on the facts accumulated, based on things that are coming from product KPIs, best addressed through better risk management and the like. So we're going to get a world of opportunities. And that's really where we are going to focus on in today's talk, as to how these things are being impacted by AI. Where exactly is AI pitching in? In fact, AI has a role to play in all of these. And we will also come to the considerations that are very, very important. So AI being the best and the coolest thing around is not a reason for us to blend AI with product management. The reason to blend these two together should be more customer centricity, more data driven decisions, real time availability of a lot of things more than what we had in past, and above all, better managing the risks around our products. So are you ready? What do you need to do to get ready? Let's look at that. So when we talk about uh, bringing AI and product management together, there are really three things or three broad segregations in which we need to look at. How do we get ready? The future is already upon us, and it is a world of opportunities, as we learned. So there's the skill set, there's the mindset, and there is the tool set. What are the elements of this? That's what we are going to look at in here. When we talk about skill set, we are talking about the ability to understand the fundamentals of AI. Though your role as a product manager or as somebody working in AI enabled, AI driven products may not essentially require you to be a data engineer or a data scientist. However, when you are working in a zone which brings AI and product management together, it is a very useful thing for you to understand how the AI model is working in the background, at least at a broad level. It's important to understand the ethical considerations behind the data. Is the data getting biased in any ways? Are we teaching the model to do something which probably doesn't look transparent, doesn't look unbiased, and so on? Are we doing something like that? Very important for us to understand. Something that closely gets together is the data privacy aspect. Remember, we are talking about exodus of data. Our models work based on the learning they gather from the data, the patterns, the analysis of the data. So data by itself continues to be the core, and hence data privacy and the rules around it, because the model can only be as intelligent as the data which is used to train it. So it's important to understand what are the privacy regulations. Can we really use the data? Have we taken enough uh, consent from our intended users or customers to be able to use this data? For what purpose? Are we encrypting it? Should we be encrypting it? And so on and so forth. It's a huge space by itself. However, make sure you understand at a minimum what's needed for your role. Cybersecurity, we are going to open up a lot of things knowingly, unknowingly. So it's important to keep things secure as much it is important to keep things private, and they go hand in hand also for a lot of considerations. The next important skill to imbibe in this journey is collaboration, communication, because it's a lot about a close-knit way of working together with the product team, which will comprise of different roles. And this is also a world of specialization to some extent, because you don't have too many data scientists, data engineers, and the likes always. So as a product manager, you might not have all the understanding. So you need to collaborate with different other roles on a team much more than what you had to do in past, because this is an ever evolving field. So there could be an expert or one or more experts on teams, and they are the people you need to interact with when we talk about product management. Then comes continuous learning. Understand that everything around a model built based on artificial intelligence is iterative. The data behind it fuels the model, and the model might learn new things. So, accordingly, you also need to keep learning a lot of new stuff that comes with usage of AI in product management. Of course, user centricity as a skill, very, very important, because it's not solely what the model gives us as outcomes. It's important that we as product managers make the final call based on everything else that we have. Okay. AI and the algorithms, the models, they're going to be your companions. You have to decide as a product manager what is in the best interest of the product, basis everything that you get. And of course, product domain continues to be the most important element of the skill set. Last but not the least, very, very important that as a product manager, you have solid experience of the domain, because basis what you get from your AI model, you will have to make those decisions, as I mentioned. So it's important that you have the right tools of trade to make those decisions, and domain triumphs all of them. What is the mindset that you need to go with when it comes to AI in product management? The mindset element, the most important thing to understand in there and remember every single time is that the model is only as intelligent as the algorithm and the data behind it. So make sure you understand this and try to not look at it as a perfect entity. Exercise your vigil, make your decisions. Human in the loop, hence, continues to be very important. Do not have an all pass filter from your AI model going out to your intended users. It cannot be, it should not be like that. Be the human in the loop who safeguards the products against this kind of all pass. So, what does that mean? Wherever you're using artificial intelligence, make sure you are making the final decisions based on what you see, be it using AI for writing your backlog. Final decision rests with you in terms of content of the backlog, prioritization as a product manager, and so on. Make sure that is happening, and there is no excuse to it. Something coming from a machine doesn't have to be essentially a perfect answer to what you seek. The other mindset is AI is bringing in a lot of opportunities. Yes, it will help create new jobs or it will change existing responsibilities. Very important for you is to understand, develop your understanding. No one can be a know it all, but read about it, learn about it, embrace something that's coming new, embrace new technology, use it as necessary, use it in your day to day. Then you will develop your confidence, you will lose or you will part with the fear of trying something new. So that approach, that mindset is extremely important because this field is evolving very fast. So if you haven't used something, go ahead and do that. There will always be some learning, something will work, something will not work. That's a disclaimer. All the tools and everything that's based on AI also gives us. Next is, of course, tool set. This is a whole big topic. Very, very few examples really that I have given here, but as we all know, there is a plethora of opportunities. So we will have only a small focus on the tools because we all know that we have lots of them and this will continue to evolve. So I'm not really going too deep into just the tool set part of it. So what exactly, when you see uh, let's say a job listing for AI product manager, what exactly are people doing? Do they want to hire a bot as a product manager? Do they want a product manager for AI products? Are organizations looking for product manager who can use AI for product management? Are they looking at someone who can introduce or add AI to existing products? Are they looking at all of this? Definitely not the first one. Okay, they're not looking at hiring bots. So what this means is they're not looking at somebody who can just come in and do a plug and play. No, they're looking at professional expertise, which will bring product management and AI together. So what does that mean? What does that change for a product manager? We have three essential elements of AI and of product management in first place. There is the business, product exists to fulfill a business need, as we know. There's the technology behind our products now. Each and every product almost has an element of technology. Okay, so we cannot ignore technology in recent times. And then there is the specific customized user experience. Okay. I would like to see, if I am the user of a product, I would like to see and use the product just as I want it to be. I want it to understand and remember me and give me something that's specific to me and not force too much of data around or not overload me with all the visual and data clutter. So I want something which is talking about my preferences, my personality to some extent. So those are the three essential elements, as we can say, of product management. Now, what happens when AI will come into all of this? When AI will come into all of this, the experience will be much more user centric and user facing. It will talk about the domain or the language which the intended user is familiar with. And it will continue to give things to the intended user in a very unbiased and transparent manner, is what we are expecting. What is the other angle that changes? There is a big angle of whether the business is ready to embrace something or not. Are there challenges behind the adoption? And then the third element is whether product has an appetite and capability to imbibe AI. And we'll look at this in details in the upcoming slides a little bit. Last but not the least, AI is not free. If you're talking commercial products, if you're talking things where business wants to make money, which is essentially what business wants to do, then you need to have the ability to invest in things. And so the consideration of ROI will start coming into picture for sure. Now, that is a calculation which also a product manager will have to make, because AI will come with investment. AI will come with the need for data, the computing power. None of this is free in the world. So the ROI understanding becomes extremely important when we talk about AI product managers. So how do we get there? What is the learning path? Now, there are three broad level avenues I have felt personally and experienced, which are necessary to ramp yourself up. Whether you decide to become a product manager for AI enabled products or whether you use AI in product management, wish to do that, there are probably three broad level things that you need to have a decently comfortable understanding about. What is decently comfortable is whatever is possibly needed for a product. Three things: technical skills. The list will grow, things will keep coming into this umbrella, but at a broad level. Fundamentals of data science, machine learning, AI, deep learning. What is this? Are they all the same? They're not all the same. So you need to develop a little bit of how these things are distinguished in products. What distinguishes machine learning? Machine learning is primarily the algorithm that we talk about, the model as it is called. And then artificial intelligence is the ability to make decisions based on what the model gives us. And data fuels the model. And then what is deep learning? What is large language models? What is natural language processing? What is retrieval augmented generation? This is all at the heart. There is data, there is the model. And then the sophistication level increases. When you talk about natural language processing, you're talking about text to speech, speech to text kind of things. So if your product is going to have something like that, you need to understand basics of NLP. You may or may not want to be an NLP expert. That's different, but you need to understand at a basic level what NLP is all about. And similarly, if you're going to generate something, right from simple things like generating images and the likes. So if you're going to do anything like that in your products, then you need to understand a little bit about RAG, or RAG as it is called, retrieval augmented reality. So there are lots of these things. The list will keep growing, but look at the correlation to your product and then try and understand some of this. Best ways to talk to your technical folks also to get a good understanding of this. What are we planning to use? And try and get an overview. Okay, at a minimum, you need to understand that. Though your role is not to be a technical expert, if you are getting into product management, probably your role is not to become the technical SME behind all this. However, you need to have a basic level understanding. Learning by observation is very important. This is a vast field. You will not have the opportunity to try everything all by yourself. So there will be things you can learn by talking to experts. You can experience a few things, yes, but your observation trumps everything. So you need to be able to observe what's happening, understand what is working, where the challenges are, and so on. So learning by observing a lot of things. And the third way you can learn is with AI in action. Try to use things. If you haven't done that as of now, try to use some of the AI enabled, AI based tools, techniques in your everyday work. That will equip you much more to get into AI enabled and AI plus product management kind of career ladder. Try to use things, test the waters in your existing products, in your existing role. That will give you the confidence on how you can in future lead anything which brings AI and product management together, how you can be ready for that role. And of course, share about your learnings. If you are the person who enjoys writing blogs or vlogs and the likes, do that, share it. I'm not essentially saying be a blogger, but share things about your learnings, because that will help you validate what you learned. So those are three broad level things that you need to imbibe. In my honest opinion, the learning path looks more or less like that. And of course, it's not a been there, done that. This is a progressive thing. New things will keep coming into this space. So how does on the ground AI help when it comes to the product assets, the tactical aspect of product management? When we talk about product management, we're talking about roughly 4 or 5 things. There has to be a product, obviously, which is fueled by a business case. We need to have a product vision and strategy. There needs to be a roadmap for the product. There are OKRs, measurable entities for a product. And of course, there is the product backlog. It's more or less, plus or minus, these are the different product assets. Now, AI has a role to play in each of these. And that's interesting. Okay, so now you have a plethora of opportunities, lot of data, lot of predictive analytics, lot of insights, lot of information about customer research, buying patterns, markets, different geographies, and the likes. You can zoom in, zoom out on the data and do a whole lot of things because you have data and you have an algorithm behind it with the introduction of AI. So some examples on what can be done. When we talk about business case for a product, we are talking about essentially a lot of data being collected prior. Okay, it could be data with respect to understanding the patterns. It could be data with respect to understanding the customers, their demographics, their age, etc., etc., etc. So if you bring AI and product management together, you have the ability to do a lot of analysis in terms of risk prediction, in terms of looking at some of the case studies, in terms of building a solid business case, which will be combined with the return on investment. What are we going to gain with all of this by building the product or the service or rendering the service? So AI has a role to play everywhere. There are tools like Riskwatch, for example, which helps get your data, build some analysis around it, and helps predict risks. Then there are tools like When Gauge, which help you document or rather generate case studies, which will be a very important consideration to a business case. So there are lots of them. Again, as I mentioned, I don't want to only focus on tools because the space is evolving. So as we talk today, these are the things that are probably being popular. Tomorrow, there'll be something else. So think about the mindset, think about building the skills. Tools will definitely be available much more than now. I think future has many things more that are coming up. Product vision, product strategy, again, AI has a big role to play. We talk here about, analyzing the market, analyzing the buyer patterns, analyzing a lot of things around, uh, sometimes also where things didn't work, and so on. And then eventually we want to generate some ideas around it. So AI can help you with all of these. There are, again, lots of tools available. What is very popular in the predictive analytics space is, with respect to the products, is Amazon QuickSight. Then you have, things for creating roadmaps and the likes. And one advantage, big advantage you will get is you have the opportunity to implement or absorb changes when it comes to the market analysis or the roadmap. It's like having a static map when you want to go from place A to place B, and your other option is to use Google Maps. Now, what happens if you change your direction or probably take a different route? You take a detour to reach from one place to another. Google Map will, behind the scenes, recalibrate the path and then give you the next recommendation in terms of, okay, this is the possible set of routes that you can take. This is the time it will take, which routes are busy, and everything, right? So the ability to change is much more. If you had a static map, you have to struggle with it. First of all, you have to find out where you are, map it, and then look at the next set of options. So the machine now, the algorithm, the Google Map has the opportunity to do this for you based on your existing location and the point where you want to be. Roadmap, again, building the product roadmaps was never easier. It won't be in future either. However, what's important to understand is now we have the power of data. Now we can do a lot more in less time because we will have the intelligence or the insights being served to us. There is also the ability to adapt to changing situations, to what we also looked at in the previous slide. AI today has the ability to generate objectives, key results based on the data that we feed into it. And of course, predictive analytics continues to be at the center of everything around AI and product management. There are tools like Tability, which will help you work with your OKRs and would also give you an early indication and the likes. And of course, we have a lot happening in this space. I think this is probably the most popular segment where AI has a role to play. Lots of tools claim they can build a product backlog for you. But please remember that if you are product managing such a product, then your decision should be final. You need to take the final call on what goes into the backlog. You can use n number of AI tools. You can, your co-pilots to chat GPTs to everyone is going to give you all the insights. It will generate automatically the backlog for you. However, please use your experience and judgment to make the final decision around the backlog content and the prioritization. Do not ever leave it onto the tool alone, because whatever comes from the model needs a validation. And as a product manager, you are that person who's expected to do this validation. And then, of course, when we have all of this, okay, we have AI, which will give us right from insights to a backlog to OKRs to roadmaps on the other side and everything in between. So, how do we measure success with all this? Now, that part is not too different just by bringing in AI, more or less. There will be one element which is different. However, uh, generally, when we talk about measuring success of a product, we're talking about product matrix, we are talking about the feedback from the users, we're talking about market impact, we're talking about technical progress. What is different with inclusion of AI is how ethical and responsible is the indication that's coming from AI. When we talk about ethics, we're talking in here primarily about things like bias, transparency, and the likes. When we talk about responsibility, we have a whole big world of opportunities to what we really accept and acknowledge, the correlation to the environment, the sustainability, and everything. Because now we need more computing power, we need a lot more of everything else. So, those considerations, that measurement will be different when it comes to measuring success. The success is also going to be measured through how many things that the model is able to predict, not essentially with accuracy, but with the best way, best utility of it. So, what is the model predicting? What is the model giving us insights or indications around? What is the success of that? Or the indications that the model is giving, how many of those actually apply to the product by itself? So, some matrix around the model, like things like false positives, for example. If a model is giving you a lot of false positives, it's essential to then look back, recalibrate. There is probably problem with the data or the algorithm behind it. So these are some of the things you should be measuring when we talk about bringing the world of AI together with product management. So with all this, I guess we are pretty convinced that yes, we have a world of opportunities. AI and product management is a good combination. But what are the considerations behind using it? Very important to remember a few points when it comes to bringing these together. Let's use it where necessary. Let it not be a force fit into anything. What is the problem that we are trying to solve? That should essentially be the starting point, and not that we want to use AI and do such and such thing. Let's not take that route. Let's not take it because it looks like everything is AI enabled is the next best thing to sell from a product standpoint. No. Try to look at first the problem space, and then try and have a broad level crafting of the solution. So if this is the problem space, or if this is what we want to improve, then what is the solution? What are the considerations of the solutions? What are we trying to propose? Is that really ethical? We have data, yes, but do we have enough permissions to use that data? Are we putting something at a risk? Are we exposing personal details of somebody or an organization? How is the new solution that we want to propose, considering that we want to use AI somewhere, is that going to integrate with the existing one? And where exactly is the feedback system in place? Remember, we spoke about iterative way in which a model learns things. So when you have product out in the field and you have a model giving you something as insights, there needs to be a feedback loop. It is not a write the algorithm once and be done with its situation. It's an iterative process in which you make the algorithm better time and again. And so it's important to have a feedback mechanism which will continuously recalibrate the model. And then, of course, usage of AI. Do we have data? Is that data clean enough? Is that realistic? Or do we have false positives? What are the kind of data sets we wish to use when we want to train the models? Do we know enough about the data itself? What algorithm are we planning to use? Do we have a broad level understanding of that? And last but not the least, are we going to make the solution or buy it? The question might seem simple, but there are a lot of considerations behind it. So if you're going to buy something, is it a product or a service? Is it going to be on your premise? Because remember, just the model or the utility or the portal cannot do much by itself unless it is fueled with data. So when we are talking about data, we are talking about the collection of data, we are talking about the cleansing of the data, we are talking about using the data to learn from it. And in doing so, there is a back and forth between utilities, where the data will be stored, how should it make its transit between different things? Is it going to be resulting in leakage somewhere? Is privacy going to be compromised? Is the data enough ethical to be used, and so on? And only then, once you have answers to these and many more questions, that you think about bringing these two things together, because it takes a lot to build impressions about products, and a lot of things, the buying patterns, a lot of things run with impulse more than they run with anything else on the intended user standpoint. The comfort level, all these are feelings, right? What exactly is comfort level? What exactly is user experience? It is the ease, it is the comfort that we're talking about. Let's say I'm a person who shops very frequently on a particular e-commerce portal. Tomorrow, that e-commerce portal decides to change its user interface and my user experience. Would I be equally comfortable? I might not be equally comfortable in using that product anymore. So these things matter a lot when it comes to product management and the intended users. So make sure you have these considerations ironed out before you bring the world of AI and product management together. And with that, I would like to open the floor for if I can try and take any questions or if you have something to share.
Thank you, Meghna, for covering the various nuances of AI in product management. It was very insightful. So we have a question on the chat from Idris. So what Idris wants to know is there an AI tool that can create a story map?
Should be one. I haven't used, though. I haven't used a tool to create. And neither have I seen too many people using tools to create story maps. When it comes to talking about the backlog, lots and lots of people prefer to generate their backlog. And then they start, working on it. So they want or they wish to use a tool to generate features, user stories, and the likes. And then they go about any subsequent steps, is what I have observed. But I have not seen a tool for story map being very popular. But with that being said, there might be a tool which does that.
Yeah, yeah. Any other participant on the call who would like to share anything if they have used any story map, any tool for story map?
One thing to note while people are thinking is, um, Right now, where we see a lot of AI being used is for things which are more tactical in nature, which are more extremely driven by structured data. In the creative space, the usage or implementation or widespread absorption of AI is still little less. Okay. The reason being that is probably a developing field still. We don't have as much maturity as we have using, let's say, AI for predictive analytics. There, the tooling, the understanding, all that space is a slightly more mature level than for creative things. I mean, talk about even simple things like image generation, for example. What happens is, I mean, try using some tools, okay? And based on your prompt, you get a variety of images. Okay. At some point in time, I actually, in order to test a tool, and I don't want to name the tool, but there is an X tool where I gave it a prompt. I prompted the tool to generate a Venn diagram for me. Okay, now Venn diagrams we all know should not be so complicated, or rather, we use Venn diagrams to simplify what we want to tell. And I got such a complex Venn diagram back from this tool. Goodness, I have never used that in a presentation. It was for a similar talk like this, and I wanted to also demonstrate how to use some of these things. And I found the Venn diagram so complex myself that I said, if I'm feeling it so complex, for sure, what happens to people who listen to this talk, they will find it much more complex, and I don't want to use it. So creative aspects of it, still we have some way to go, I would say. And it was another interesting thing. And I'm a blogger myself, so I once experimented with another tool, and I wanted it to generate a picture, and uh, basically a simple one. It was a blog about food, so it had to generate something with capsicum growing on trees and the likes, and the picture was so complex. It cannot be. Capsicums are pretty simple, and them growing on trees is also very normal. So so sometimes in the creative space we are all up for surprises. The point I'm trying to make is, make sure you be strong, use the tools, but use your judgment on the outcome that's coming from the tools. Okay, let's not just pull things and do a copy paste or what have you. Let's not do that. Let's put our judgment and experience. Okay, I wanted it to look like this. Is it really giving me the outcome that I anticipated? If not, then I must change my prompt or change the tool, or better still use my own creativity rather than. So think about that from a product management standpoint also. Very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Jay,
have one question. This is Jay Krishna.
Yes.
See, actually, what product metrics do we use for measuring success?
So it depends on the product, of course.
Mhm.
When you're talking about e-commerce and retail, you're talking about how much of sales by volume. When you're talking about a system that is supposed to help with financial transactions, you're talking about product metrics like transactions per second and the likes. Now, with what is changing, we had these products earlier as well. With AI coming into product management, we now have all this real time. Lot of real time data is getting pulled into. So transactions per second, companies which are providing you I'm using financial examples because all of us use this, though we don't essentially look at transactions per second as a metric ourselves, but we do financial transactions online. So the TPS metric was something which was being captured earlier as well. Now, with AI coming into picture, we have a lot of real-time access to this data. As if you are working for an organization which implements such a product or service, you have a lot of data which you can look at 24/7. which was not so easily possible before a lot of products used data science, data analytics, and artificial intelligence for that matter. And also things like, expanding on the ability to fulfill more transactions, less transactions. Sometimes you have peak periods. How do we balance the load? All this. So you have data coming from the market, from the product, live product, which is out there in work. And then you make decisions based on the product. The other day, I was talking to someone, and this person gave me an interesting example of how they use uh, artificial intelligence to do pricing of the products. Okay, so when there are special windows of opportunity, or if you have a frequent buyer and the likes. So we all know about e-commerce portals giving us different pricing. So how do you know that? How do you decide the pricing as an e-commerce retailer? There are algorithms that run in the background. This is all real time. Okay, so product matrix is there in terms of whole lot of things, the buying patterns, the sales, the window of opportunities, the festival times, and they keep updating the pricing in real time. Now, this we were not doing as actively before. This is much more coming into picture after the influence of AI has increased. So product metrics are being monitored in terms of the buying patterns. That is a feed forward into an algorithm. And then that algorithm calculates the price of the product and gives it back on the e-retail e-commerce portal. So this goes on very, very continuously. I'm sure they have humans in the loop. Okay, I don't think they're running it on autopilot, no chance. But this is much more frequent. So if we really test some of the systems, try and browse to the same e-commerce portal from different devices, and based on different logins, you might see different pricing. So that's nothing but AI in the background.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Meghna, we have another question on the chat from Sumant. How to
Okay.
learn fast to stay employable?
All right. So how to learn fast? Now that is a very interesting thing by itself. First and foremost, narrow down the learning. Okay, there are exciting things coming everywhere, every single minute. From the time I prepared for the talk and to the time we finish the talk today, we will have something getting added in the space. So stay focused on your experience and interest level. So what do you have experience in? What has been your background? How does AI connect to that world? That's a good starting point, because you have the opportunity to immediately see something in that space. Like, for example, as an agile coach, I look at a lot of confluence of AI coming together in the product management, in the agile space, because that's my experience and area of expertise. So learning becomes very quick for me if I'm able to correlate these two things together. It also depends on my focus. I mean, whoever is trying to learn something new, where do I want to see myself few years down the line? So let me learn more about that field. That is going to be very good. Now, where did I start? I started with uh, the fact that if I want to continue in the coaching space for some more years, how am I going to understand about AI and coaching together? What are those things I need to understand? So depends on your current experience, depends on your expertise levels. Narrow down the learning to those things which are much more immediately something that you can experience in your space. And that is a good starting point. Attend events, volunteer for a few things. There are a lot of places where you can volunteer and learn at the same time. So do that, I would say. Talk to experts, talk to people. Again, narrow down the space. This is a very vast field. Okay. So you will have to narrow down. One quick tip for learning more about things is please narrow it down. So there are variety of things which are coming up every single moment. So narrow it down to your role, narrow it down to your experience, narrow it down to what you want to do next. And make use of, so that there's huge amount of online information you can go through, learn from multiple portals, and LinkedIn Learning to Udemy to YouTube. A lot of things are out there. Okay, but narrowing down your search is going to help. Stay focused. If I wish to grow more in a particular space, then let me learn about things I can use. Unless you use something, your confidence levels might not increase. So where did I start? On one side is I started using some of the simple tools myself to begin with, so that I develop confidence on the usage of it. Plus, I get to learn about what is running in the background in that tool. The more I use it, I'll get to understand that. So narrowing down your search and trying to use some of the things, that's your best way to learn. Anything that has landed afresh?
I think there's a follow-up on your response. Like Ashokan is asking, can you give examples where you can volunteer in forums for conferences?
There are many.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on one side, you have the likes of, and again, it depends on your experience and how much time you can denote and everything else. Okay. But assuming you are interested and you have the possibilities to do that, you could volunteer with organizations like Cloud Security Alliance, for example. They do a lot in the AI space. So, and large language model space, because that's a very interesting field which brings these two together. So Cloud Security Alliance is one place where you can volunteer. You can volunteer in the prompt engineering space to train large language models. Okay. So what this involves is, again, there are freelancing as well as paid opportunities available here. But basis your expertise, you can connect with such an organization, and you can look at the prompts, and you can look at the outcomes that the model is giving from the basis the prompts. And then your activity involves, whether it's paid or volunteering, that activity involves finding out the best response. Okay, so you need to tell the model which is the best response. That is what this kind of a job involves. If it's a job, I mean, there are volunteering opportunities as well over here. So you can combine with a lot of such organizations which need a freelancing or a volunteering workforce that trains large language models. That is another very good way to ramp up your skills. Because what will grow, what will become more and more important is your ability to get to the right information that you need, and for which prompt engineering is very important. So you need to, in simple terms, you need to be able to ask the right questions to the machine. Then it is going to give you the responses that you are looking for. So way to learn is also to sign up for training large language models. Either as, if you're open to paid opportunities as well as freelancing, both exist in that space. So training LLMs is another good way. And I myself pursued that for some time because I learned a lot by doing that way. Okay. Any other questions?
I have one question, Meghana.
Yes, please.
I'm working as a senior scrum master in a healthcare industry.
Hmm.
Here, my POs, most of the time, POs get requirements and then we get them implemented. Once we get them implemented, we most of the time we don't get how much value it generated on the business. Is it because they don't get data from the business, or try to ask PO what business impact did the feature we delivered impacted? But I most of the time we never had any answer. Is it
Okay.
the have you experienced this kind of situation?
Many times. And what we are missing is many steps prior. So when we talk about implementing features, we talk about implementing user stories, whatever your backlog looks like. Okay. Whatever the team's backlog, the product backlog looks like. First and foremost, we haven't thought about, or we haven't explicitly mentioned it in there with respect to how do we know we are done with a feature? How do we know we are done with a user story? There we start having that thought. How will we calculate? And a lot of things that go to the intended user are more of the hypothesis, as we use the term, right? So until it is validated by the intended user, we don't know whether it's really done the way it had to be. Now, what are we missing in all this? We are missing this thought on what are we going to measure? What are the product metrics? How are we using that for prioritizing? So when your product owner, team's product owner brings up a feature or a user story, then ask about two things primarily. Ask about what is the overall vision for this? What is the overall roadmap for something? What is going to be our measurable entity to know that we are reaching there? Okay. So typically business will think in terms of quarters. So quarter one, what are the things we are looking forward to? Try to, over a period of time, encourage the product owner to think this way. And if the product owner has already thought about it, then ask the product owner to articulate all of this. Very, very important. So sometimes we just haven't built enough measurable entities into the thing. And it all starts with from the time we write the backlog. That's a very good starting point. And that is the time we miss the most. So randomly, I have done that multiple times as a Scrum Master in past and as a coach now, is to look at the team's backlog. So when I start a coaching engagement, particularly in the agile world, the first thing I ask people, apart from the initial conversations, the challenges, on the tactical side, the first thing I ask them is to give me access to their backlog. I want to see how well the backlog is written and where we can improve. So it all starts with writing good backlog. If you ask towards the finish line and we don't have anything, you're not going to get anything. But try asking earlier. That is one tip. And also try looking for overarching goals, business goals, and the like. So you'll get a lot of correlation between, there should be a correlation between these two. For example, let's say there is a product that has to be released in certain set of geographies. So we should have that in our roadmap, and we should have those kind of features in our backlog. That's how it looks. It should go together. So have the right nudge at the time of writing the backlog itself. When you first get something, when you have the thought at that point in time, then you're going to have some measurements after things are going out. Otherwise, you might not have. High chance that you will miss if you get into at the end.
Even after a couple of months of after launching the product also, I mean, after 3 months also, when I ask what happened to did you get any feedback from the business? Because they are the people who are getting involved, closely working with business. So since we don't have access to business, PO is the only medium through which we come to know about how much impact did the what we delivered actually created. So even after a couple of months also, I mean, I didn't have experience of getting the data.
One more thing you can do, actually, give it a try, is to invite more stakeholders. You might be having some kind of reviews or demos, right?
Yes.
Somewhere. Okay.
Yep.
I'm not talking about the day-to-day working between the team and the product owner. That is anyway something that needs to happen. I'm talking about reviews and demos with stakeholders. Slowly but surely expand that space. Bring in the business.
Okay.
Okay. At least the business representatives, managers, beyond the PO. That is also a good place for you to nudge. However, as I mentioned, it's best to start with these friendly reminders and questions at the beginning, then towards the review step. But in the review also, you can ask the right questions, and you can nudge in a very friendly manner as to, okay, this is what we worked on previously, or this is the demo that you're seeing. But what happened to things that were delivered earlier? Where are we seeing them? How are we feeding them forward into our backlog? Because it's not just to look at the product matrix, it is to bring those product matrix into your backlog in a way, right? You want to take decisions for the future based on what the past has shown you. So bringing more stakeholders into a review also has been found to be helpful.
Okay.
So when done in public, of course, you will have to be a very good facilitator for doing that, because you're inviting more stakeholders. So you will need to be able to manage those stakeholders together. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So make sure you're on top of that. Okay, facilitation, the more hippos you bring into a connect, you have to be very good at facilitating. Things can turn into any direction at the drop of a hat. Okay, so be very careful managing a lot of stalwarts together. Never easy, but if you prepare well, you can pull it off. No problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. We had something on the chat.
Yeah, nothing more on the chat, Meghna.
I think one, I don't think we
Yeah,
covered.
yeah, we just got one more.
Yeah, as a Scrum Master, product
Yeah.
owner, how much AI knowledge is needed, prompts or deep machine, Gen AI? Simple answer to this question is you need as much as your product requires in first place. And in your role, you need to understand. So as a Scrum Master, what are you really responsible for? You are responsible for implementing Scrum in such a way that Scrum works to the advantage of the team. So are, do you need exposure from that angle? For example, your team might be using some AI-enabled tools for their day-to-day activities. So level of understanding of that, usage of that is needed if you're a Scrum Master, because you need to be able to remove impediments for the team. So you need to understand the impediments. I mean, not that you do everything to remove the impediments, but you need to really be on top of it. So you need to have just enough understanding of the impediment itself to talk about it with the right set of people. So start with the product first. What is your product? Then start with just enough learning that's necessary. It's not so easy to get into so many details of deep learning and the likes. Typically, this is also handled by expert people on your team. You might have a data scientist and the likes. However, when we talk about such things, or we talk about large language models, if your team is developing one such or using one such, at a minimum, have knowledge about what is the input to such a model, what are the kind of data sets, what is it that we need to do in that space, cleansing of data, maintaining data, the privacy, security, everything. So there is this input, which is the data, there is the model. At a broad level, understand how the model works. Okay, again, very top level. You cannot be an algorithm or a data science expert. Maybe if you have that background, well and good, but if you don't, then what we're talking about is a basic overview of what this model is supposed to do. And then understand the outcomes. How many favorable outcomes or usable outcomes the model is giving? How many false positives are there? Let's say if there's a fintech company and that has a payment platform, and during the uh, holiday season, maybe, or some great festive sale and the likes, we get a lot of false positives from the risk engine or the risk algorithm. Then we're not doing a good job. We need to optimize our algorithm to something. Okay, so that level of understanding you need to have, be it a Scrum Master, be it a product manager role. Product manager requires more understanding because you need to be able to prioritize these requirements. Okay. However, top level understanding, and what is that top level, by the way? Look at it from an intended user standpoint. Okay, that is how you define the top level. What is the user going to see? What is the user going to experience? And how the model is enabling or disabling that. That level of understanding you need to have. Now, out of your interest, you can get deep into deep learning, well and good, but that is a very deep field, by the way. Okay, so it will depend on how much understanding you want to develop. But at a top level, from an intended user, from a customer standpoint for your product or service or whatever you're implementing AI for, you need to have that level of understanding. Okay. As to a particular algorithm or model, how is that helping the user? That understanding you need to have. You may not know how the algorithm is written, but how it is being used is what you should understand. So that's how the user-centric aspect of it is where your learning should be. Out of interest and possibilities, you can learn more. No one's stopping you. Hope that answers. We have one more, I suppose. At what stage in a product a web scraping should not be allowed, considering product uniqueness alongside reaching the product? So it's again, dependent on the product itself. Things exist to remain in business, as simple as that. And that has not changed with the introduction of AI. So if your product is profitable and giving you what you need, then there is no reason to scrap the product. What you can rather look at is how you can blend two things together. Now, there are lots of case studies behind doing this. Okay. And one such example I would like to correlate to is Asian Paints. Asian Paints has done a lot of understanding of their intended user, their customer buying behavior. They have had data for many decades, and they use this data to do what? To reduce the supply chain, the duration of the supply chain, the complexity of the supply chain. They use it for all of this. And so they haven't really scrapped anything from a product standpoint or the supply chain standpoint. They haven't done that. What they have done is, and of course, Asian Paints as an organization existed way before we could talk about machine learning and AI. So what they have done is, there is this existing product, they have plugged AI and sort of deep learning in a way into it. On an existing product, they have done that. So as long as the product is profitable, I don't see a reason why it should be completely scrapped. We can make it better with usage of AI. That would be my short answer to your question. Anything else? So what is the stage at which we should be doing? Well, we should continuously monitor how profitable a product is. And basis that, as long as something is profitable, we probably don't have a reason to scrap it. Unless we wish to change our strategy with respect, that's a bigger discussion. That has nothing to do with AI and product management. Unless we want to change the strategy of our products by itself, then it's a different thing altogether. Okay. Anything else that we have? Looks like not.
Team, anyone has any questions or thoughts you would like to share? Okay, looks like we are good to close the session, Meghna.
All right.
Thank you again.
It's a lot.
Thank you all.
inviting. Thanks for listening in, and thanks for all the questions.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for the insightful session, Meghna.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.